Hey everyone, how's it going? Bowser the Healer here, and today I have a top 5 of my favorite moments from the MDI Global Finals Dragonflight Season 1 that happened last weekend. Hopefully this top 5 can point you in the direction of a couple of cool matches. I'll try not to spoil too many things here if you haven't gotten to watch every single match, but I just need to cover these moments as I thought they were so cool, and unfortunately I don't have a team that can cover every single match with me, so I hope this suffices. I will cover all of Grand Finals in its own video, so stay tuned for that, but let's just jump right into it. Number 5, Thundered's Algothar Academy. So this isn't the fastest strat, and I don't even think it's the most impressive Algothar Academy, but it is one of the more creative strats, and I really liked it. So Thunder tried to show this off day 1, had a bit of a blunder, so on to day number 2. On day number 2, they go to Tree first, and they end up grabbing an Echo Knight pack. Normally this is what you do at the end of the dungeon, and you bring it into the final boss, but they take this Restorer, they dominate Mind, and walk through the whole dungeon with it. Now, I don't know the details about how they work. I'm not sure how often they cast the 50% haste buff. I think there might be a shield there, and I don't have all the details. But I do know that they carried this pet, they carried this unit all the way through the dungeon, through every single boss fight, all the way to the final boss. It was super fun to watch, and honestly, making a 23 Algothar Academy probably a little bit safer. I really like the strat, and I figured it would be a good one to highlight. Number 4, Mandatory's record Ruby Life Pool. Mandatory versus Legendary was a great match, and this Ruby Life Pool was pretty competitive, but Mandatory didn't just play good, they played perfectly. I mean, I think the only mistakes they made were tiny little DPS losses here and there that were individual to the specs. You have to watch this run front to back. They do a Giga onto the first pull. They do all of the speed strats on top side. They end up doing a very clean Blaze Hoof. They grab all the trash in before the final boss, and they do the unsafe strat of perfectly cleaving down both the bosses and getting a really fast kill for an 8-minute and 54-second Ruby Life Pool. I believe that might be the fastest dungeon in all of MDI, as well as, of course, the fastest Ruby Life Pools of that weekend. Super fast stuff, incredible play. Truly something you just gotta sit down and check out yourself. Number 3, Echo bringing the forest to Odin. So you might have seen this snap before in Halls of Valor, where after taking out Herja and Fenrir, you get access to the full version of the speed buff that lets you just book it through Halls of Valor. And you can take like the bears or the yaks or whatever, and you can pull them, teleport, and snap them basically anywhere in the dungeon. It's a pretty fun strategy, and honestly, it's pretty efficient if you ask me. You can bring them away from the forest and maybe move them somewhere a little bit easier to kite. But no, Echo didn't just stop there. They grab yaks, they grab bears, they send 3 of their teammates to grab the beer out of combat because you can't hold on to the beer when you're in combat. They get up topside, they set up the king pull. No one gets in combat that isn't supposed to be. They get all 4 kings in the entire forest brought to Odin, and nobody dies. We're talking perfect play here. Echo absolutely runs away with this match, and it is a sight to behold, and especially that tanking and healing. The way that they managed the mobs and were able to keep the tank alive, I just blown away by that, because this is a very spooky pull by my standards. Number 2, Cheese's insane Court of Stars. So if you're not up to date on the meta strat here, and this is basically a speed strat only, but you bring 4 DPS in 1 tank to Court of Stars. Essentially, between off healing and the prop paladin, if you play it correctly and you do your job right, no one should be dying in a lot of these pulls, and you can get some pretty crazy times. One of the strats though involves you taking out 2 of the mini bosses, then pulling the second to last boss with the mini boss, and have someone take the mini boss and kite it around the map, Dead by Daylight style. Except Cheese does a couple of things a little different here. First of all, look at their composition. There's a Demon Hunter, a Death Knight, and a Devastation Evoker, which all have some form of sustain, but Devastation Evoker doesn't have much. They only have a Nature's Vigil for off healing, and then a Prot Warrior. It doesn't follow any of the standard compositions for this kind of run, and yet they pull trash efficiently, they do their bosses correctly, and then Cheese ends up taking out 1 mini boss and kiting 2 of them. This strategy not only is the main reason why they win this map on Echo, but this strategy evolves throughout the weekend and gets even crazier by other teams after Cheese pulled it off. But it doesn't really just stop at them taking out the second boss, and I really don't know how they all survived that. That must have been incredibly hard to pull off. But on the final boss, they end up holding their cooldowns for the Death Knight, I believe. Yes, the Death Knight to get Unknown Army. And so then they pop Lust and everything. But when they do this, it's about around 60% on the boss. Trick is here is that Devastation Evokers with their Giant Killer passive do more damage to targets with more health than them. That number falls off as they take damage though. However, when you pop Dragon Rage, their main cooldown, it ends up giving them 100% benefit. So when all of the buttons get popped at 60%, they cover the weakness of Devastation Evoker, and the single target for everyone is through the roof, and they clear the map easily, taking a map from Echo. Oh, they were my dark horse pick, and I was just so happy to see this happen. Number 1, Perplex versus Sloth, Azure Vaults. So this one, I hate to be a bit of a party pooper, I don't want to spoil too much. But what I do want to tell you is that Perplex has a mild blunder at the start and has a beautiful recovery. And what looks to be a kind of normal Azure Vaults where teams have slightly different routes turns into very different routes. We're talking mixes of different strategies from different teams, stuff you haven't seen before, and you won't be able to guess who's winning this map at any point in the run. I will avoid showing the absolute ending, but it does involve both teams popping Bloodlust at almost the exact same time in completely different parts of the dungeon in a true DPS race to the finish. It was so much fun to watch and shows just how creative some of these teams are getting. Azure Vaults allows for such a diverse range of compositions and strategies. I just loved watching it, and I hope you love it as much too. Again, I don't want to spoil that map too much, but it was fun as heck to watch, and I hope you'll enjoy it as much as I did. And that's going to do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. The MDI was super fun, and a huge shout out to the teams, the casters, and production for giving us weekends and weekends of content to enjoy. I was always looking forward to the next match. Feel free to get subscribed here if you want to see my breakdown of Grand Finals, and I hope you enjoyed watching my little top 5. Let me know your favorite moment down below in the comments, and I will see you all soon.